The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acomb, and we are broadcasting from the Hesselson studio. And in that studio, we're talking the great backyard bird count. Thanks so much for being on the program.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Frank. It's great to be here.
So I've got to admit, I'm kind of new to this. You've got to tell me what is, for those that are watching that don't know, what is the great backyard bird count?
The Great Backyard Bird Count, also known as GBBC, not to be confused with a bake-off, but it's been confused with that sometimes.
Sure.
It's a 4-day event in February. It's always over President's Day weekend or Family Day weekend in Canada. And it's 4 days where literally the world comes together to share birds. What are we seeing? What are we hearing? This event started in mostly the United States about almost 30 years ago, 29 years ago. Yeah, it's been going for a long time, and we just grow every year. We included Canada eventually, and now the event is actually global. We had over 800,000 people last year participate, and we're hoping for 1 million this year. But it's really just a fun opportunity for people to share the birds that they're seeing or hearing in and around their homes and communities, and kind of feel united by something that's really fun and vibrant and very accessible, right? Birds are everywhere.
Right. And I was looking on the website, and it says participatory scientists. So if we join, are we all scientists?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm going to put that on my resume.
Exactly.
But for those of you, because I know we all love, especially this time of year, in hopes of spring, right? We start to look at the birds. What do you need to submit if you want to become that scientist?
Well, what's fun about this event is it's really easy. Many people now are fans of the Merlin app, which is a tool that allows you to ID birds, right? And so just using Merlin once over the 4 days and clicking "this is my bird that I saw or heard or took a photo of," that counts as participating in the Great Backyard Bird Count. For those of us who really are super into birds, we watch them all the time, we like to make checklists, you can also submit checklists via eBird. So either tool, people can use them over the 4 days, and that counts as participating.
Well, and you mentioned that this started 30 years ago, so I'm sure without the app at that point, how has it changed over those 30 years?
A lot. Yeah. And actually, I always like to do a little brag that the success of the Great Backyard Bird Count is what resulted in the eBird and Merlin apps being designed. Because it was an opportunity to see, wow, people are really excited to share bird sightings. What if we were able to create a tool and a protocol where we can actually use those bird sightings for science and conservation? So yeah, the tools have changed. Way back when, people would use a relatively simple form, which I think some people do miss on our website, but it's become a lot more involved now in some ways. Merlin's very easy to use. I really recommend that tool for beginning people. eBird's a little more involved. You kind of have to know your bird species and be able to identify them by sound or sight in order to record them. So the tool is a little more complicated now. The good thing about this, though, is that now, because the protocol is tight, the data's tight, we're able to actually use this research in a multitude of ways. So it really has a bigger impact today because of the tools that we've created.
Well, I'm sure. So this sounds like it's for everybody. You've got the one avenue that if it is someone like me, that I don't want to give you the wrong information, so I don't know all the birds. So that you've got the one app that will help you with that, and then the expert that can submit the actual information that they see. How much did this take off during COVID? Like, I know it's been going 30 years, but it must have been wild.
It was huge, yeah. I mean, we've had steady growth really since it started, but COVID was this really beautiful, though a hard time, a dark time for many people. It was also a beautiful opportunity for people to reconnect with the natural world in a way that maybe they just hadn't been doing for a long time, whether it was because their lifestyle was so busy, or they just weren't looking outside or going for walks as often. And COVID was an opportunity for people to feel connected through birds and the natural world in a way that was safe, right? You could do it alone. You didn't have to do it with other people.
You're outdoors.
So yeah, COVID was a big opportunity. And we've done a lot of social science research since then to find that engaging with birds and bird watching is really good for you.
Oh, I'm sure.
It lowers your blood pressure. It decreases anxiety and depression. It's a way to feel sort of connected and engaged with the natural world that isn't it doesn't demand a lot of you and is quite relaxing.
Yeah. How when you sign up to take part in the Great Backyard Bird Count, which is February 13th through the 16th, do you have to sign up, or is it just using the app? You're already there. Wow.
Exactly.
You make this
Everybody
very
should
easy.
use. Sorry.
You make this very easy.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So anybody who already is using Merlin or eBird, you've already signed up,
Okay.
right? It's just using the tools because when you do create an account, you do have to sign up. You have to give your email. And the reason for that, some people do ask about that. And the reason for that is because this is data, this is science. So we need to be able to link it back to a location
Sure.
and link it back to an actual human.
That makes sense. And if you want to be a scientist, you have to provide all the information.
That's
It's
right.
so sign up. And you had mentioned the data is used for very productive reasons. What are some of the examples of that? Like, what do you when you take all this, because it must be overwhelming, and I know the computer looks at it, but it must be overwhelming to kind of weed through it all and figure out what you've learned.
Yeah, what's really neat about the GBC data is it goes into a even larger database, the eBird database, which is recording birds 365 days a year
Okay.
all over the world. And you're right, a lot of that is kind of put through different algorithms and so forth for us to be able to make sense of. In 2024, we haven't calculated the number in 2025. It always goes up every year. But in 2024, scientists used the eBird data in about 248 different publications.
Oh my goodness.
And yeah, this is an immense data set that is one of the biggest ones used today. And what's really neat about the bird data is that you can often overlay it with other large data. So you can overlay it with weather events and see how bird populations and abundance is shifting based on weather events that occur. Land use changes. When we overlay bird data with land use, what are we seeing in terms of where birds are moving, where they're seen, where they're not seen? Are they changing elevations in terms of where they're living? So honestly, when you look at the list of
Yeah.
publications, it runs the gamut. There's an incredible amount that we're able to learn and see by using bird data.
It'd be kind of interesting this year because it has been so brutally cold to see
Yeah.
how that affects it. Now, when you look at the numbers, because this is your business, you must get excited when the numbers come out. What are you looking for specifically? Is there one data point where you're like, I wonder how this has changed?
Yeah, I mean, the status and trends are always interesting to see how they're shifting year over year. Weather events are something I'm really paying attention to this year because
Yeah.
it's been such a brutally cold, snowy winter in many, many parts of the Northeast, the Midwest, certainly many parts of Canada. So I'm always curious to see how bird numbers are as we're sort of facing these really bitter cold periods. I did just see a headline. I haven't read the article, but one of my favorite birds, the American woodcock, because of the coldness in the coastal Cape May area, they've seen a lot of these birds dying,
Oh my
literally,
goodness.
because
Yeah.
it's just so cold. I hope that's not true
Right.
this year, but it is one of the reasons why these events are so important, because in order to sort of be understanding what's going on in our natural world, birds act as an eco indicator, and they really help us understand how the environment is doing through the lens of looking at birds and how birds are faring. So I'm very curious to see what numbers are like this year because of how cold and icy and snowy it's been.
Yes. And it's interesting that it must be neat to look at because you get submissions, like you said, from all over the world. Is there anything that, and maybe this is a dumb question, but has there ever been a time where there's been some big surprise where, like, where did this person see this bird? Why did this happen? Are there always those or rarely?
Oh, there are. There
Yeah.
are those. We often, as a part of our final results for GBBC, we love to highlight rare and unusual birds that are seen all over the place.
Okay.
And that actually can sometimes go up with significant weather events because birds will sometimes get caught in storms and they end up much further away than they're
Oh,
normally
interesting. Yeah.
living. So we see that happening. We see birds that are normally seen in the US, in Europe. We see birds that are normally seen in Africa, in China. So yeah, it's very fascinating to see how birds sometimes end up in places very far away from where we normally see them, where we normally see their range.
Now, how long have you been involved in the Great Backyard Bird Count? You personally?
I think this is my 6th year.
Okay.
I took it over about 6 years ago, and before that, we didn't actually use the Merlin tool. That was one of the big things that we changed when I came on board because the Merlin tool was becoming so successful and popular, and we did want to make it easier for people who are newer to birds to participate. So that was the big change when I came on board.
And what, I guess, fuels your passion for this?
That's a really good question. I've always been an environmental scientifically minded person. And when I was in my early 20s, I realized that birds were one of these really powerfully captivating groups of animals that kind of inspired people to pay attention in a way that a lot of things don't, mostly because birds are everywhere. So if you can talk to people through bird conservation, you're pretty relevant wherever you are in the world, because birds are really everywhere in the world, and they're very accessible, right? It's not like you have to have an ID tool to look at a flower where there's this really cool bee or butterfly. They're much more they're bigger, they're more vibrant, their behavior is fascinating. And so birds to me not only are cool in and of itself, but they help it helps me to be able to talk to people about why the environmental world is so important and why the planet's so important, because we share it with these really incredible organisms.
Now, you also, just because I have your time here, tell me about Garden for Birds. I know I've thrown you for a loop because we're talking the Great Backyard Bird Count, but you're here, and I want to use your time wisely.
I love that. Thank you. So Garden for Birds is my passion.
Oh, okay.
That's my
so this is just a hobby.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, they're both my passion. But my big personal love is creating habitat for birds.
Okay.
And one of the things I love about this is it's a natural segue from people who are maybe doing GBBC and starting to pay attention to the birds, and they think, wow, I really like seeing birds. How do I have more birds and different kinds of birds around my property or community? And so Garden for Birds is about that. It's about trying to guide people in understanding the different native plants that they can add in their area to better support birds, to feed birds, to provide shelter for birds, to provide nesting habitat.
Sure.
As well as like things that we can do around our homes, like protect our windows so birds don't collide into them. So Garden for Birds is really about helping to inspire people to create safer spaces for birds.
Now, I have on the bottom of the screen about the Great Backyard Bird Count with the website, but where can people find out more about Garden for Birds?
Gardenforbirds.org.
Okay. Well, you guys got the best screen names. Birdcount.org. You somehow got that. How do you pull those ones off? But again,
I'm not sure.
It's the Great Backyard Bird Count. It's coming out February 13th and through the 16th, excuse me. And to find out more, birdcount.org. Thanks for giving us so much time this morning. This is fun. I can't wait to hear how the results panned out.
Great. Thanks for having us on your show.
I'd love to have you on for Garden for Birds maybe a little bit later on. All right.
Wonderful.
All right. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.